Tonight's a night where I believe for the first time in the history of this Hall of Fame, we will be inducting a second lineman, although he had, along with Gene Renzi, other credentials. 1956 and 55, when he was playing, those youngsters who played on the 1960 Hall of Fame team were at the games and looking up at Dick Shea and all the other players on that team as our idols. This guy was something special, and when I saw him play fullback in the Belmont game, because they were beating Belmont so badly, the coach gave him a chance to play in the running back position. Sort of the goal of every lineman was to play running back, and they were beating Belmont. Paulie Basile ran wild, and it was 48-6, and he let him play fullback. One of the great linemen in the history of this school, an outstanding track performer, and citizens of the community, Lou Romanelli, class of 1956. Teamwork is a philosophy of sport and a philosophy of life, and it's one that has guided Lou Romanelli for a long time. In the community, as an athlete, he's the very embodiment of team player, consistently giving of himself to further the goals of the group, whether it be the team or the community. As a writer predicted when he was much younger, we predicted Romanelli would lead his men over many a tough hurdle before the season's over. And he's done that all through his life. He could not have known at that time how many games and how many separate settings that statement would be true. Lou learned his earliest lessons in Watertown's West End, where the community sat around Bobby Clark's variety store. It was under Bobby Clark's wing that he learned sports first, after the premature death of Lou's dad. And the Clark Spa team taught Lou much about sports and sportsmanship. Lou took those lessons to heart. On the gridiron and under legendary coaches Joe Zeno and Vic Palladino, he served as a two-way tackle for a series of successful teams. As a sophomore, he started 5 games for the eventual Class B champions, earning a slot as a full-time starter on offense and defense the next season. His senior year, along with Dick Shea, he was co-captain and served as an offensive catalyst as a lead blocker for Hall of Famer Paul Basile. And he paved the way as the blocker for Paul Basile's state scoring title. On defense, he was outstanding. He was one of those great players in goal line situations. Had a superb game against Malden Catholic, in which Watertown held Malden scoreless 3 times within Watertown's 5-yard line. When Watertown played Winchester, future Heisman Trophy winner Joe Bellino had a tough time against Watertown, and once again Romanelli had a great game. The culmination of that season came against Belmont on Thanksgiving Day. Basile runs wild. Watertown wins 46-8. Romanelli plays fullback and gets the game ball. Lou was also an integral cog in the track legend of Bob Gleason. Watertown recaptured the state Class B championship in '56 for the 8th time in 9 years with no small assistance from Lou Romanelli and the discus. He won the bronze in the discus throw at the state title in the state meet in '54 and the silver medal in '55 and '56. He moved the Watertown High discus record past 127 feet in his senior season. Recruited by a number of colleges, Lou knew his calling was to work with his head in his hands and join the building trades. He worked as a master mason, provided another set of teammates with goals and aspirations. And he spent more than 20 years in the construction field before becoming supervisor of buildings and grounds and athletic fields at Brandeis. In 1978, he won the Brandeis Award for Extraordinary Service. And in 1994, he was honored again for his continuing service to the Brandeis University community. He has been an extraordinary worker in the Watertown community. Even a short summary of his work for young athletes would be too long for the rest of this meeting. His efforts on behalf of women's hockey, his work in Little League, and his membership on the school department's athletic advisory committee are but a few points of emphasis. Many of Lou's teams on and off the field have been mentioned, but anyone who knows Lou has noticed immediately the most critical part is missing. For it's Lou's family that matters most to him. He and his wife, Carol, celebrate their 40th anniversary this year, and with their 5 children and 5 grandchildren, can muster a squad in about any endeavor you'd care to name. Certainly all the Romanelli teammates from across the years and across the miles root for Lou Romanelli. And from that Hall of Fame 1960 team, particularly the linemen, Lou Romanelli is who we looked up to. He was our idol, and we all wanted to play fullback against Belmont. Lou Romanelli, class of 1956.
Thank you. Oh. This here, for some of you people who don't know why I'm carrying this up here. This is a mapina, and what I did the dishes with, when I dug the garden, took care of the chickens. This is remembrance of my mom and dad. I go back a long way in Watertown. When I first went to school, Mom and Dad says, Louis, you're going to go to St. Pat's Grammar School. I didn't know what I was in for then. So anyway, I went to St. Pat's Grammar School. And during the day at recess, the Murphys, the Duffys, and the Devaney's used to come and get Luigi Romanelli and throw him into the dungeon. So I went to my best friend, who's departed, and Dickie Shea and Mike Phillips, who I'm going to dedicate this plaque to tonight. And I said to Mike, who was an Irishman, a blue-eyed, beautiful Irishman, and I miss him dearly, Mike, I'm getting thrown into the dungeon down there by the Duffys and all those kids down there. He says, Lou, you got to change your name. So I went down the next day and I changed my name from Luigi to Lou. I says, now I got it made when I go out to recess today. So I goes out to recess, and there's them Irishmen again, throwing me into the dungeon. I goes home and I sees Mike, because he was going to the Brown school then. I says, Mike, I changed my friggin' name. I says, and they throw me in the dungeon. He says, what do you call yourself now? I says, Louis. He says, you just don't change Luigi, you gotta change Romanelli too. So anyway, to get along with the story, you know, I played for a lot of coaches in Watertown. Coach Sullivan down at St. Pat's. I went out for the 9th grade team down there. And you wouldn't believe the uniform they gave me. I looked like Newt Rockney. And Melvin Malahy, the detective of Watertown, was one of the coaches. He was like 2 or 3 years older than me. He worked me out and stuff like that there. I goes home that night, and I says to my mom, I said, Ma, I got a letter here from the school, St. Pat's. I don't think they like me too much. She says, why? What's the matter? I said, now they want me to wear a suit jacket in the 9th grade. I don't like to dress. In fact, when I dressed tonight, I drove down Nardone's, I made sure I went real fast, because no one's ever seen me dressed like this here. So anyway, I'm glad you have a good time, because I'm going to tell you something. This to me is not me, and I don't say I. I'm up here for a lot of kids, and I'm up here for, like Coach Renzi said, and Velakis, and Papalia, and O'Hara, and Johnny Marini, and a lot of, and Dom Russo, and DeSimone, and Dom Antonellis, and you and Ronnie Tester, I love yous, because I passed the banner to you guys. Sorry I said I. I'm very proud of you guys, and I'm proud of the guys that went in the service, like Gene said, during the Vietnam War and the Korean crisis, because I wouldn't be up here now. I appreciate it, guys. Now, we got through Coach Sully, so I left St. Pat's. and I went to the high school. So Coach Maniloodle told Joe Zeno, he says, you got to come and see this kid. And you got to have him run against Coco Gregorian. This is the guy that's missing, guys. We'll talk about that at another day. So I ran against Coco Gregorian, who was the 50-yard Class B champ in the track. And we almost caught him. Coach Zeno says to me, Louis, why do you run so fast? And I said to Coach Zeno, you know, you guys remember him, 1-inch neck, right? A bull of a man and a beautiful person. Why do you run so fast?